Mr. Zeldin.
Hello again.
Hello again. Hope you'll answer my questions. I'd appreciate it. The first is, on February 17th, the FBI told Citibank to freeze the GGRF funds. Did you have anything to do with that?
No.
Were you aware of that
I was made aware of that.
shortly after?
I think I got my update on that after Citibank instituted the freeze.
Okay. Do you know who the FBI was reporting to when it took that action?
All of the stuff that you went through a lot earlier that I mean, we're not, as you know, at the Judiciary Committee hearing. There are questions that I just don't have the answers
Yeah, that's
for
fine.
as far as a different
Just say you
agency.
don't know. That's fine. Were you aware that on February 18th, the criminal chief of the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office resigned over this effort to get this freeze?
I learned about that reading about it in the newspaper.
Okay. So shortly after February 18th, when that became news.
Whenever it broke in the news.
Did you find out at some point that Mr. Martin had failed to get his order from the magistrate judge?
What would ask the question again? Did I learn what?
U.S. Attorney Martin
Right, I understand.
went to the magistrate judge seeking an order that would allow for the freeze of the Citibank held assets.
I was aware of that
Okay.
after the fact.
Do you know when the order was denied?
I don't have that date.
Okay. The reason I'm asking this is because on February 23rd, 2025, you said about the GGRF that the entire scheme, in my opinion, is criminal, which is a pretty strong word to use. And I'm trying to figure out what you knew when you said it was criminal. So you knew by then, at least, that the criminal chief had resigned over this issue. It's not clear whether you knew at that time that Martin's order had been rejected by the magistrate judge. Could you find that out for me? What was the timing of when you knew that Martin's order had been rejected by the judge in comparison to your statement that this was criminal?
Yeah, and would you like me to tell you everything that I knew when I made that statement?
Sure.
Okay. So the first thing was a Biden EPA official.
Well, not right now. We can do this in a QRF because I'd like to get through some other questions. Later on March 6th, you also said that this was either a kickback, a theft, or graft, or all of the above on Fox News. And if you could also put into the timeline of what you knew and when you knew it, that March 6th statement. I would be grateful to that, about that. Now, somewhere between March 9th and 10th, there was a series of emails between EPA and DOJ in which the top career EPA attorney, a gentleman named Jim Payne, warned that there were significant legal vulnerabilities with the Citibank freeze. Do you know what those significant legal vulnerabilities were that he was referring to?
I could speculate that if you're going through what is claimed to be a breach of contract, and the Court of Federal Claims, which is the court that would actually have jurisdiction over it, not a district court, inside there they would determine, one, if there was a breach of contract, and then two, they would decide on damages.
So it could be not on the merits, but just on the venue, on the appropriate court.
Well, I'm just saying the way that process would go, so there's $20 billion went to 8 pass-through entities. A little over $3 billion of that actually was dispersed. The rest has been frozen. All the grants have been terminated.
Let me ask you about that because my time is getting a little bit short here. I'm sorry to cut you off, but the New York Times has reported that one of the grantees has been told it no longer needs to comply with a February 20 subpoena, suggesting that the investigation is closing. Is the investigation closing?
Again, you should ask that question. Any question that you have as far as Justice Department as an agency should be directed to the Justice Department. It would be great for us to
You were not
spend this
involved in all of that.
No, I'm focused on the EPA.
Okay.
And I
So
think this would be
focusing
great
on the
for us to-
EPA in my last seconds,
Please, yeah.
DOJ lawyers representing EPA admitted in the Circuit Court of Appeals that they are not accusing anybody of fraud. That's their quote, not accusing anybody of fraud. And EPA in that courtroom specifically reiterated several times that no grantee had engaged in any fraud, waste, or abuse. Do you stand by the statements of your lawyers in that courtroom?
I would love to be able to go through the list of all of the waste and abuse that I'm aware of, but it seems like you and your colleagues want anything other than for me to go through the list of evidence.
You're more than welcome to submit a list of all the evidence, but when I only
I
have
don't know
5
why you guys
minutes,
just-
I don't want you to.
You don't want me to go through the list of evidence.
You
You just
eat up-
want to say that
you
we
eat
don't
up-
have any,
you eat up-
right?
No,
You just want to say we don't have any, and
let me
then
stop
say
you.
I don't
Hold
have
on,
time to
hold
actually
on,
go through the list.
hold on. Let me stop you right there. It's not me saying that you don't have any. It's your lawyers in a court
Okay, so
proceeding
allow
saying
me
you
to
don't
talk-
have
Allow me
any.
to talk through it.
So I'll take it as a question for the record because our time is up. But please, give me your list. I'd be more than happy to
I
review
already
it.
sent you over a lot of it, but I guess you haven't read it.
All right, here we go.